Hello, my name is Richard Tritt, and I'm in the photo archives at the Cumberland County Historical Society. And today I'm doing one of the talks, the alphabets in the alphabet series. We're only to letter B. And when I thought of letter B, I had several things come to mind. One was the Big Spring, because I grew up in that area, and I went to Big Spring High School. I graduated from there in 1960. And I also thought of Boiling Springs because I've lived in Boiling Springs since 1965, and I still live there. I've always been interested. There's a lot of history in Boiling Springs. But because of recent events, I decided today to talk about the Bradley photo collection, because I've had Jim Bradley on my mind a lot recently since he died on December 31st of 2020. There are actually, in the Bradley collection, which we have at the Historical Society, there are 3 collections that were given to the Society. 2 are in the library, and the 3rd is the Bradley photo collection, and that's what I'm going to deal with today. This is the largest photo collection we ever received. We had to create a whole new room just to house it. And to give you an idea of the size, this is what we call a photo box, and in the Bradley collection there are 272 of these boxes that hold prints. There's approximately 150 to 200 photos in each box, so that would amount to around 50,000 prints. Jim Bradley also took many slides. This is one of the 260 boxes of slides that are in the collection. And there are 300 in each box, so that gives us about 78,000 slides in the collection. There are also 53 drawers of negatives and smaller black and white and color photographs. And I would guess there's anywhere from 200,000 to 300,000 items in those drawers. He also took a few 16 millimeter movies, and we have 12 of those, and several of those have been converted and are available on DVDs. So the total size of the collection is at least a 500,000 or more items. But today I'm not going to really talk about the content of the collection, but more about the person who created the photo collection, Jim Bradley. Jim was recently described by Matt Miller as an artist who used a camera instead of a brush. I think that's a very beautiful description of what Jim was, an artist who used a camera instead of a brush. I've been associated with the Historical Society since 1965, and I've been on the staff since 1990, and I worked with this photo collection for about 35 years. My first memories of Jim and his wife Mary are when they would attend events here at the Society, exhibit openings, and Linda Whitmer, the director, often hired him to photograph those special events. So those are some of my first memories of him. And then Jim and Mary presented several slide programs for the Society. Mary was the narrator, and Jim ran the projector. He was not a public speaker. He didn't like to speak in public. In 1992, we had a huge railroad exhibit entitled, "Hey Ollie, Let's Go Railroading." And Jim had a friend, Ollie Gitt, who liked railroads, and he would call him and say, "Let's go out railroading today," and they would go out and observe and take pictures of what was going on in the area. So that exhibit was held in Todd Hall, and it was a huge exhibit, hundreds of photographs. A few of them are here in front of me. And Jim made all the prints for that exhibit, and he wrote all the captions, and it was a very popular show, and I had opportunity to work with him in preparing that exhibit. Jim also often visited the society, and he helped me with client requests for things that were more recent, that weren't really that old, some things in more recent times. And he would tell me what he might have, and we would make copies of them. He was a very early morning person. He was up on the road at 5 or 6 in the morning. And I wasn't up that early usually, but he would, when he wanted to deliver things, he would drop them off at my house. On our side porch, we had a big wooden duck that we got somewhere, but he would always say, "Look behind Mr. Duck. I'm going to leave something tomorrow morning." And I would also leave things behind Mr. Duck for him to pick up when he was out early in the morning. When the museum was built, I was to select photos for the photo wall, the large wall that shows the development of photography over time. And for the more recent photos in that wall, I relied on Jim. And he invited me to come to his house in 2nd Street in Harrisburg to look at his collection. And that was my first chance to really see how large the collection was. There was a big room with a long wall of shelving and all these boxes that were arranged by location and date. I had a very pleasant day with him that time. Mary came home from her work at the Patriot at lunchtime, and we had a nice lunch. And I also met their 4 cats, and they were very fond of animals, and they had a talking bird that just flew into their back porch one day, and they took it in, and its name was Bird. They lived in a 3-story row house on 2nd Street. The first floor, when you went in, was all photography. The dark room, the area where he mounted and cropped photographs, where he kept all his supplies, where he kept the collection. That was all photography. When you went to the 2nd floor, that was the living space where they had a kitchen and bathroom and 2 bedrooms and a living room. The 3rd floor was all storage for off-season clothing, Christmas decorations, and there were shelves with their wedding gifts, many which had never been opened. And the basement was also full of many things in their collection, train-related and otherwise. Jim's roots were in Cumberland County. He was born and raised in South Middleton Township in a little place called Mount Zion, which is near Mount Holly. The railroad was nearby, as well as Carlisle Junction, where there was a lot of railroad activity. So I can understand how Jim learned to love railroading, because he was surrounded by it in South Middleton Township. Jim invited me one day to drive around South Middleton Township to see places that were special to him. He loved nature, farms, streams, animals, and people, and he especially liked to talk to everyone, and he was not shy about starting a conversation. And that's how he got to know so many people, and how many of those people allowed him to photograph them, even Amish and Mennonite, who usually do not. He also talked to railroad employees, made friends with them, and went along with them on their jobs and in the trains and photographed them. Jim's photos have a special look. He loved to work in black and white, and he had an eye for composition. He photographed from many different angles and unusual angles. You would say, how did he ever get in that position to take that picture? And he had a way of just capturing the moment. He also liked to photograph at night. You can see here. He had his own special lighting that he would set up for hours for night shots. And he liked to include people in his photographs because he liked people. He had his own dark room and where he developed his own prints, and he didn't use standard sizes. He cropped photos in a variety of sizes and shapes. The greatest joy and the biggest tragedy in Jim's life was his wife, Mary. He deeply loved her, and they did everything together. They encouraged each other in their endeavors. She was a journalist and wrote history columns for the Harrisburg Patriot News. They each amassed huge collections, but Mary was the one who wanted all of their collections to be kept together after their deaths. After her untimely death from cancer in 2009, Jim was never quite the same. He missed her immensely, and he never really got over her loss. And he looked forward to being with her again one day. About 5 years ago, Jim started to talk about the collection coming to the society and to move it here, to begin moving it here. So he started to bring a few things a little at a time, but we knew that wasn't going to work. So in 2016, the staff got together, and at that time we had our bus, and we had a couple vans, and we went down to his home, and we moved most of the photo collection here in 2016. We have continued to bring things since then, and there are still a few things at the house that we will be moving soon. The Bradleys left all of their collections to the Historical Society. It's like the ideal collection because they were very organized people and documented everything. Jim wrote a description and a date on the back of every photograph or every print that he made. He also numbered all of these slides, and he had written descriptions of each one. The Bradleys were very generous, and he provided funds to pay for the processing, for the acid-free housing, and the care of the collections. And these collections will be a permanent reminder of a great couple who lived life very fully and left so much for us and future generations to enjoy. If you'd like to learn more about the content of the Bradley photo collection, you can find a 50-minute program on YouTube that I presented in 2018 here at the Society, and it includes many of his photographs. Each Christmas, Jim and Mary sent a special holiday greeting to their friends. It was usually one of Jim's black and white photographs, approximately 4 inches by 12 inches. This year he had come in to get one of his color slides to use for his 2020 Christmas card. He had these cards made in York, and the last time he was here, about 2 weeks before his death, he returned that slide. After that, he fell at his home and he had to go to a nursing home, and so his Christmas cards never got mailed. But in mid-January, I was surprised to receive a Christmas card from Jim after his death. His sister-in-law had found the cards, and she mailed them after Christmas. It was strange to get a card from him after he had died. It was also strange that this final card was different than all the others. It was in color, not black and white. And he had told me that this would be his final year for his Christmas cards. This was the last in a series of 50 cards. In a way, this final card was his farewell to this world. And I take comfort in knowing that Jim is now where he wanted to be with his dear Mary. So may they both rest in eternal peace. Thank you.